Welcome to the Starlight podcast. Here we discuss the effects of modern culture on our mental, physical, psychological, and spiritual lives through a traditional Kemetic perspective. We hope to provide insight into what we have learned our ancestors did traditionally to live harmoniously with nature. Let the starlight illuminate your mind and shine on the path to help grow the seeds of change. Come join us in the light. Welcome, everyone, to our third episode of the Starlight podcast. Thank you so much for everyone joining us. My name is Neferista Merrusheta, and to my right is my brother.
Yo, Shemzheru Tenkawur.
And today, like we do with every episode, we want to first and foremost give honor to our master, the Dogon High Priest, the founder of the Kebtah, the Makru, the truth teller Nebnabalomosamora Denebig, for without his sacrifice in keeping the Kemetic culture in its pure essence and reintroducing it to the world, we would not be sitting here sharing this knowledge with you. We also want to give thanks to our ancestors, Shemzheru and I, who are here with us. For without them, we would not be here. And we also want to give thanks to the ancestors of all of our listeners, because without them, you would not be here with us today. And we also want to give thanks and acknowledge the seen and unseen forces of the divine world that are here with us today. So each and every week, we generally will feature, full disclosure. We know we have hot topics, but we have decided to do a name change. It's going to now going forward be called Chem Talks, a view of the world through a Kemetic lens, which of course used to be our hot topics, but that's now what it's going to be. And that's because, y'all, we pre-record these for you. And what we realized is that our hot topics may end up being lukewarm topics.
This is crazy. Yo.
By the time they get to you, because we pre-record, so they're hot when we recorded them.
Yeah.
But they might not be by the time they get to you. So we didn't want to be giving you lukewarm hot topics
At all.
We wanted to make sure that we give you something fresh, something that will give you something to think about. So we have changed it to Chem Talks.
Yes, sir.
A view of the world through a Kemetic lens. And that will be replacing our hot topics, followed by our main discussion. And this week we will continue with pilgrimage, which is part of the Initiatives of Kebtah. We'll then pick a card, commandment of the week, followed by the Griot's Corner, where we will feature my brother Shemzheru Tenkawur. And in the future, we hope to hear from you all as different people come and show their artistry during our Griot's Corner. Mm-hmm. And then we'll wrap up with a portion of the Bayawali reading, or what the Greeks would call the horoscope. So, let's kick it off with Chem Talk, Shemzheru.
Yeah, so what's interesting, this week on Chem Talks, we're going to talk about an article, a situation that's near and dear to me, which is the controversy, what I think is controversy of the spotted lanternflies. So a lot of people think it's an invasive species, and I found an article that we need to talk about. So it's an article on CNN's website, and this is how the article starts off. State agricultural departments across the United States are asking you to commit murder. Bug murder, that is. We are about to get into something today. Okay. So later in the article, it says there's a woman, Sandy Lamont. CNN says, the situation has been so severe in Pennsylvania that the state could lose about 2,800 jobs and $324 million annually if the invasive pest is not contained soon. And for me, being a student of the school, the M-Time School of Kemetic Philosophy and Spirituality, being here there's always something deeper to everything. And it's very important to look behind every story, to look behind even conversations sometimes now that you're having with people. It's important to look behind because people lie, places lie. You know, we all have that. We even had the president of the United States at one point lying to the point where there was an organization that became like the fact checkers to the statements that he was making. So at my university that I attend to right now, which is Morgan State, we learned about the concept of gatekeeping from a news reporting perspective, right? And it's interesting about gatekeeping because it follows pretty much what the word means. There's a gate that is keeping specific information, and that gate might be the news media. It might be the educational channels in school systems that hold specific information out and allow specific information to go, like the curriculum changes. It might be religious institutions, like all of these different things. So that concept of gatekeeping. The gatekeeper keeps certain information from people and allows only certain information to people. Yeah. Okay. And it's very, very important, like I said in the beginning, to look behind it because news media is known to gatekeep, and we're learning this in an institution that's now teaching us different tools and techniques that they use on a professional scale, right? Right. So although I can't say for sure about this, it seems like a common situation where an event will plague the news channels and the story will be manipulated in a way for the reaction of people. Let's look at this. If you look at behind, America is a business at the end of the day, right? We all know how America functions. America functions on capitalism. And if it functions on capitalism, we have to say, well, how then am I affected? Well, if you look at the earlier portions of the articles, we saw that Pennsylvania could lose 2,800 jobs and $324 million annually if the bug problem persists. So they're saying because of some bugs, folks are going to lose jobs. Yeah, because later in the article, they were talking about the specific crops that the spotted lanternfly goes after, right? It's not all trees that it kills. You can look around and see the decay rate, or don't see the decay rate of trees, right? So it's not all trees. It's trees that also produce hops, or the plant hops. And hops is for the beer. Yeah, for the beer? Exactly. So hops is used as a recipe or ingredient to make beer. Yeah. And I don't know if y'all know, but the beer industry, especially in America, is a very, very, very big industry, right? So if these bugs are attacking their crops, they could essentially lose money. If they lose money, then what they'll do is reduce jobs in order to sustain themselves. Nobody wants to go bankrupt. That's the end all be all. You don't want to go bankrupt. So in order to not have money that's kicked out or dished out annually to your employees, you'll do job cuts. Okay, so let me make sure I understand what you're saying. The state agriculture department says that these bugs, what do they call them? The spotted lanternflies. That these spotted lanternflies are invasive and that they're killing up stuff, and that because of that, people, like almost 3,000 people, could lose jobs and cost like billions of dollars. Yep, exactly. But the invasive lanternfly isn't really hurting anybody. All right, so peep this, right? So they're not new. They have been around. I mean, they're new, but I mean, if you consider the history of the earth, obviously, they've been around this part of the region, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland, for about 10 years. Okay. Right? Okay. So we have had time or experience to understand how they affect the ecosystem, but not to the grand way of where they need to do in order to not destroy the certain crops that the beer industry uses, right? So because of this, they're now in proliferation, right? Mm-hmm. So the ecosystem is already out of whack. Okay, you can look at the ecosystem's treacherous, well, not treacherous, but you can look at the destruction of the ecosystem through the involvement of humans and how we affect the ecosystem, especially like when it comes to like climate change, right? Wait a minute, so you saying the invasive spotted lanternfly, they're saying that this is a dangerous fly that's doing all sorts of invasive stuff. Mm-hmm. But what you're saying is humans are doing just as much invasive, dangerous stuff. All right, so check this out, and the plot thickens, right? So there was a decree given to the American people to go ahead and kill these bugs on site. Like on site, you see them, you step on them, you kill them. I work at an elementary school. This is where the things become concerning to me, right? So I work at an elementary school, and the kids have in their mind, kill the flies, kill the bugs, because they have been told by their parents and everybody around them to do this thing, right? So if you're losing money as an industry, you're going to figure out a way that something can be cost effective but still get the job done, right? So they started to make programs that if you saw the bugs, you kill them. You saw the bugs, you kill them, because it costs money for them to send out teams of people to kill the bugs. So now everybody's killing the bugs themselves, right? So these kids, I seen this girl, shit was crazy. Excuse my language, but not really. We about to rock and pop. I seen this girl rip the wings off the bird, off the fly, dropped to the ground, and then took his body and like looked at me and was like, yes, watch this, and then like kind of twisted his body and pulled it off. I see kids stomping on it. They like, Mr. Shems, you're supposed to kill it. And look, I'm not about to do that. Why? Because nature itself is a very, very intelligent entity, right? If anything comes and affects the environment, nature itself will do whatever it needs to do in order to adjust and readjust.
Can you say that again?
Nature itself would do whatever it needs to do to adjust and readjust.
If anything.
Right? So because of that, you know, like, although, yes, they're killing specific crops that are important to a specific industry, you know, if the gods or if the commandments, whatever you follow, says thou shalt not kill, and you're doing it, who then has more authority? Is it the politician that's telling you to give you the go ahead, or is it the God you serve? And that's really the thought process that I was going with that, because it just took me back to this position of really looking at things and analyzing things for what they are, right? You have kids in droves that are making this their game. Like I seen kids do some crazy shit. It looked like the European medieval times where they were putting people in like spinny wheels and cutting their balls off. That's what it looked like, because they was ripping, tearing, kicking, and shit was wild, right? But it brings you back to the position of who has more authority. Because if you say that God has more authority, right? Whatever, if it's a monotheistic God or if it's the Neteru, the gods, and you say that they have more authority, but then you go out and do the same thing that in the commandments to tells you not to do, then somebody got to be lying or something, right? So, you know, it's always important to look behind everything that you're getting. Even look behind me, what I'm saying, you know, always look behind it, but to know the position as well. So, you know, that's something that I really want everybody to think about. Who has more authority? And you know what, Neferista, what is your thoughts on that?
You know, you said something that really stuck out when you said nature knows what to do to put things back in balance. And anything that, you know, takes nature out of balance, nature will deal with it. So if we know that, and like you said, nature being an intelligent being, an intelligent entity, it knows how to keep balance of everything. It will do what's necessary to do. Then that makes me think, first of all, how have we as human beings gotten so arrogant that we think we're exempt from that? Because we see the things that have been going on all across the world, whether it's through COVID, whether it's through earthquakes, you know, nature's doing what's necessary to put things back in balance. And the biggest invasive creature is on this planet, or species on this planet, are human beings. Well,
I mean, the shoe fits. We got to wear it. Not if the shoe fits. Right. We're not even going to say it. The shoe fits. Cinderella already showed you that the shoe can fit, right? Okay. You got to wear it.
You got to wear it.
You know, so although and it's so interesting because it goes back to the concept that a human is just who he is based upon his exposure, right? You can take two children from two different environments and see two different modalities of function, right? You can see one as a preserver who's taught by people who are preservers, but then you can see one as a destroyer who's taught by people who are destroyers. the society that we live in perpetuates that destruction.
Yeah.
So when I watch the kids, you know, commit into the crimes and then want me to be a part of their corruption and their crime, I have to take a step back, and I really have to, like, me even wanting to do this as a Kim Talk segment was because of how consistent I saw the kids destroy or kill. You know, and it'd be the same kids that say, "Oh, we love nature, we love outdoors, we love this and we love that." I had to sit this one kid down and was like, "Yo, like, bro," and this kid is sweet, man. Like, this kid is a sweet kid. He's so sweet that he get on my nerves. I ain't gonna hold you. He definitely get on my nerves. He one of them kids.
Okay.
And I'm like, bro, like, what are you doing? And he's like looking at me like, what are you doing? Why are you killing? Like, what's the reason that you're killing them? He said, because they're a danger to the trees. They're killing the trees. And I'm like, turn around. He turns around. I'm like, look to your left, look to your right. What do you see over there? He's like, what do you mean? Them big tall things. What do you see? He's like, they're the trees. I was like, do you see them dying? He says, no. So what's the reason that you think that these little bugs are killing them trees?
All because someone told you.
And then I was like, I pointed to the stumps that was in the ground. I was like, look at them. And he looks at them. And I say, who did that? And then the connection's not there. And I said, we killed them. We killed the trees. So then who's really killing the trees?
Who's really killing the trees?
Is it bugs that have been, that's something different. Is it bugs that have been around for a long time, regardless of the region?
Yes. Yeah.
They've been on the planet, these insects, right? Or us, who think that we have authority over nature.
Over nature.
And the kingdoms and the dominions in which nature represents, because the Bible tells you do.
Or the government tells you.
Or the government tells you
you can kill these. And not to get too far off the bugs, but how much do you have hold of someone's mind that you can tell them that something is bad and so go kill it?
Exactly.
When you think about just the bugs, or you think about the culture we live in, because at one point, and in some ways still now, the bad guy is a certain person that looks a certain way.
Yeah.
And it's okay to kill them. So we've lost our ability to think and be in harmony with nature. We've lost our ability to say, be preservers of life, because we are in a culture and a society that perpetuates destruction. So it becomes okay to kill a bug, and it becomes okay to kill a man of a certain color. So yeah, that's a good point. When you think about it during the week, who has more authority? Yeah. It's just something to think about. You know, that's really what we want to express inside of the Kim Talks, because we have been so conditioned to just accept what the politician has given us. So now we want to bring a different perspective, a different train of thought, something that we can start to look at, like our situations, our positions as people inside of space and time, and really consider, you know, our actions. Because regardless, right, whether you're gonna listen to this and say, well, fuck that, I'm gonna do this. We're not saying, like, don't do, like, I'm not trying to force you to not do anything. Right. I just want you to look behind what action that you're now doing and who's telling you to do that. Yeah, and then the agenda behind that. So yeah, that's really today's segment of Kim Talks for us today. Hey, thank you. Yeah, for sure. That was a good one. Yeah, wow. Now for my Kim Talks in today's episode of the Starlight podcast, we're actually going to continue discussing the pilgrimage to Merrusheta. And that is part of the Indigenous Renaissance Initiative of the Kebtah, or IRI. So just for those new listeners who might be listening today, the Indigenous Renaissance Initiative of our organization, which is the Kebtah, its goal is to execute the vision of Indigenous leaders and uplift those communities while honoring their cultural principles. So it's really designed to address the needs of those Indigenous communities facing the challenges due to colonialism, due to imperialism, and due to the Western world or the colonial perspectives pushing the modern way of life onto them. which is then taking away their way of life and their way of survival. So in today's
So to piggyback off of that, right? I remember my first time going to Merita.
Okay.
And Merita is a word that we use, that it's a word in the Medu we use to honor and correctly name the continent.
Right.
It refers more so to the regions that still uphold the traditions, right? And so I'm laughing only because I'm cheesing super hard. I wish you all could see I'm like smiling super hard. Neferista's like looking at me like,
cheekbones.
you're cheesing so hard, boys. Calm down. All right, so interestingly enough, I went there with my Hatani co-host Neferista Merrusheta, which was her first time as well.
Yeah.
Now here we go, and y'all have heard my experience right on the last episode. Now, Neferista, how was it for you? What was your experience getting off the plane, being and knowing you were in the motherland? How did it feel for you?
First, it was just so exciting to go with you.
Aw.
You know.
Damn.
I'm not gonna it might be another episode, all the planning that me and Shemzheru had to do to get ready to go to Africa.
Don't even say me and Shemzheru. You know I kicked out on. Come on, let's just be honest. Transparency. I was watching her do this shit. And I was learning a lot. You feel me? I was learning a lot, but I was like, damn, it's a lot of work. I can't wait till we get there. And she was like, type in Google, what shots do we get? Yo, facts.
Okay. I felt like it was we, but okay, it was me. Do out for
the
that.
most that I said was like, well, we need a tent. I was like, damn, you think it's gonna be hot? Oh wait, we go to Africa. Of course it's gonna be hot.
It's gonna be hot. Yeah.
So yeah.
But it was first of all for me, Shemzheru, from our listeners who are listening. Going to Africa was a lifelong dream,
bro.
I knew from a little girl that was where I wanted to go. And for me as an adult, I was like, I'm not going to any other country. Whether it was because I could or couldn't, I didn't want to go to any other country first. I wanted to go to Africa first because I felt like this was the land of my people. This was the land of my family. And even if I didn't know them, to give a little background, some of y'all might have heard me say, my grandparents are the ones who raised me. They were born in 1896 and 1912. And yeah, right? So the education I got, how I was raised was different than my friends and the people around me. I had turn of the century, education.
Yeah. Right.
And Shemzheru always reminds me because I just think a little differently about things and I approach things a little differently.
All right, can we segue real quick? Can you tell them about your education in public school? Please. Can you tell? Yo, they did stuff like how to set up a tent like Girl Scouts in their actual curriculum. Bro, please. Cooking classes that were cooking 4-course meals.
Okay. First of all,
how to survive a plane crash.
Okay. First of all, y'all, let me give you a little context. First of all, I had elders. The elders who raised my grandmother, grandfather, they taught me a lot. Mm-hmm. We had a garden that we had to get up every morning, and at 5 o'clock in the morning, we had to get up and tend to the garden. Mm-hmm. I was little, with a hoe that was just as big as me, plowing the land. So my experience growing up, the things that we had to do as children, helped me know a lot about a lot of things because they just taught us at an early age. We knew how to use every tool that was in the shed, things like that. And but yes, I had a shout out to Reading High School in Reading, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, gang.
I had an awesome education. They taught us financial literacy. They taught us. I was in a typing class to become a secretary, but they taught us office administration. I'm old, y'all, so I'm showing my age a little bit.
You ain't old.
I'm not really old, but I'm showing my age when I tell you that I was learned on the Commodore 64.
Damn.
That was the first computer that was out.
I don't know what the hell that is. She said Commodore. I'm thinking we talking about birds.
Computer. But I say that all to say, being a young black girl in Pennsylvania in the 70s was hard. Being a little light-skinned black girl.
Little light, bright.
Right. Hey, that's what they used to call me. In the 70s, and an orphan, not having a mom and dad is another hit to you. So my vision all my life was to get to go to a place where I could feel comfortable in my skin, that everybody looked like me, and you don't get chased down the street with little white folks, little white boys throwing bricks at you, chasing you home, trying to beat you up and stuff because of the color of your skin. So it was always something I wanted to do, is to go to Africa. And let me tell you, Shemzheru, when after that 18-hour flight, yeah, because I've never been on a plane that long. So after the 18-hour flight, and we got off the plane, and we touched down on ground. Mm-hmm. I think I did actually get down on the ground and kiss the ground. I think I did. I think I remember getting down and putting my hands on the earth and kissed the ground because I was home. And I remember when we got there to the temple, and they I don't know if I told you this, they brought us food. They brought us the toe and sauce. I remember it was toe, and it was the sauce with the okra. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what I did, but I knocked over the whole thing.
Oh shit!
I did.
The whole thing?
The whole thing on the ground. I was so sick.
No, I think you might have told me that.
I was so sick.
Wow.
I was so nervous and so sick, and the brother who was there, he was like, he just smiled at me, and he was like, no, and I'm here cleaning it up because, I knocked it over.
You probably was crying.
I was.
Yeah, she cries pretty often on a lot of things. I'm just saying, like, it's not a bad thing. I mean, sometimes I'd be like, damn, she crying.
Yeah. Anyway, to be on the earth, to have someone serve me food, now listen. One of the most, I think, biggest things now, just transparency. I have struggled a lot in a lot of different ways in my life here in the West. There's been plenty of times that I was trying to figure out creative ways to get food, because I didn't have enough money to feed my family. Now, my children always ate, but I didn't always eat. And to be somewhere, first of all, I think we talked a bit about it in the last segment. To be somewhere where they fed us every single day, and the most food I've ever had. And the most delicious food.
You're talking about buffet, bro. That was like every day, man.
But also, what was amazing is, it's like all the energy there is bigger. Mm-hmm. Like the trees, the heat. But then you realize, being there as an African born in America, the heat does something good to us.
Mm-hmm. Yo.
Like, at first I was trying to just be grateful, but not be mad because I was hot. Yo. And trying not to let my mind think, okay, I wish I was home with air conditioning.
Yo.
And it's so hard, but it's like all the impurities. Mm-hmm. You're sweating out so much garbage. Mm-hmm. As you're eating so much good food. Mm-hmm. And I went over there with so many health challenges. Mm-hmm. And I just knew that I was going to have to be at the healing temple, and they were just going to be giving me a whole bunch of herbs, because my mindset was how they address health here in the West. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, okay, in the West, they put me in a hospital, they give me a whole bunch of drugs. So I'm thinking they're going to take me to the healing temple and give me a whole bunch of herbs. But the difference in being in traditional Africa is the way of life is healing. The air is clean. The water is good for you. When you go on a pilgrimage with the Kebtah, you are going to be reharmonized with nature. And you don't get that. Like you don't get that when you're leaving to go. You don't understand that that's what's going to happen. That you have to be reharmonized with nature. Because living here in the West, you don't realize how far you've become denatured.
Yeah.
You know, you don't realize that the water you're drinking that's conveniently pumped into your house is so full of chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
And that those chemicals are doing something to your body. If you 40 years of drinking tap water.
See.
That most of the time you can smell the chlorine in it.
Yeah. So when it came to you eating the food and drinking the water and being at one with nature in a way, what was the point in which your struggle reached its height and showed you that you really had to go through the trenches in order to come out to the point in which you needed to come?
So, I was just so grateful to be there. It was easier just to do what I was told. That was the easy part. For me, one of the things that was the most difficult was when we would be doing certain things at the healing temple. And I now realize I was having hot flashes. Had no idea. Like menopause hot flashes. But I would get so hot inside the heat of Africa. So I'm hot, my own internal heat, and it was so hot there in Merrusheta, and I would be so overwhelmed, like, oh, no, I'm not going to make it. I don't know if I'm going to make it.
Man, what, you about to die?
I felt like it. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. It's so hot. Like I would feel like I was burning up from my head, like from the inside out, like I was on fire. And listen, I am not certain. Here's what I'll say. I would stand there and I knew in that moment that I had to just calm down. I just had to let be. I would remember I would stand there listening, in the moment to the elders, and I would just wave my hands to my side back and forth as if beckoning for the wind to come. Just to breathe for a moment to cool me off. Humbly understanding that in this moment, that's all I could do. And I swear to you, Shemzheru, every single time a breeze came.
Yeah, like your experiences, like even just the nature of asking. I know from my experiences there, it was hard, right? So your experiences, like you got a lot of like the hidden magical thing. Like, like some people may go and experience, it's always themes. Like for me, I was writing down themes on different days, right? And inside of each of those themes, I was always able to experience. So for you, were you able to experience like the different themes pertaining to like the different segments of classes that we had? Like how was because you stayed there, for 2 months or something
3
like
months.
that? Damn, you was there for 3 months? I forgot. Dang.
I was there for 3 months.
Shout out to you, man.
Yeah,
Don't talk about the whole 3 months because I wasn't even. Actually, what? Fucking. Give us it all. All of it.
Now, the other time he asked me, like, how long are you going to stay? And I said, I'm going to stay for 3 months. And he said, that's a good amount of time for you to learn. It was almost like he was saying to me, that's enough time for you to start undoing the Western colonized way of thinking. That was, I came, humble. I came wanting to learn. I came wanting to do whatever anybody asked me to do. And no matter how humble I was, I still didn't realize how Western I was. How I still didn't know how to fit yet. And it's kind of like what you said. By the time I was getting ready to go, like, I didn't even know that I was getting ready to leave. Like, I'm there at the Healing Temple. I'm enjoying life, and then all of a sudden, Nava says, "When is your flight?" And I think it was like a Wednesday, and I was like, I don't know. I was like, wait a minute, I think I'm supposed to go home at this time. And then we found out, like, my flight home was like in like 4 or 5 days, and I had to go. Like, I had to get back because you had to do the COVID stuff. And
I can see you right now. I don't know. Let me go look.
Right. He's like, ask Nikita. Ask he's our executive director, Nikita. So ask him, and he like told me when my flight was, and I was like, what? And then I was just in tears. Like, I was just upset because I had to go home.
Yeah. I mean, like, realistically, it's so. We could spend the next like 4 episodes just deep diving and divulging ourselves into like really what you experienced, and did like the stories, like how I was walking to the market, how I was traveling to the market. Like, tell people how that was, the travels and things like that.
So some of the things that I thought was amazing was the fact that the village was beautiful. And
which villages? Specific.
The villages on the way to Het Aisha in Sokode and Kovum. It was just, the simplicity and the intelligence of how people live their life, and the harmonization with nature. And when we were in Ouagadougou, the capital, at the temple, again, just how people had their homes set up.
Yeah.
Like, when it's funny because I was taking my walk this morning out to nature, and I was looking at the homes, and we put fences around our backyards so there can be division. Mm-hmm. But we have just an open gate where you can just walk up to someone's home here. Whereas there, it's like a compound. You can't just walk up on somebody's door. There's a big, huge, gigantic wall and a beautiful door to let you into the courtyard, in a sense. You can't just walk up on somebody's house. And inside that I'll say realm of someone's home, everything is happening right there. And it's exclusive. It's private. It's sacred. Mm-hmm. It's like the way of life of understanding even home begats a sacred space. Mm-hmm. Understand that, like, going to get water from the well. First of all, that well water was the most delicious water I've ever tasted.
It was flavorful, but it was warm, but it wasn't like lukewarm.
Somehow
it was like
warm and cold at the same time.
It was like the mountain that we go to get the water. Yeah, it was like if you let that be for like a couple days, it was like that room temperature.
Right,
but it was still power. Yeah.
And it was crisp.
Yeah, go ahead.
And flavorful. And
we making them thirsty. They're like, damn, I need some Dasani. Right? No, you don't need no damn Dasani. You don't need no
Dasani. You better get some well water from Merita.
And the honey too.
Oh my gosh, the honey,
bro. I'm not trying to cut you off.
I don't know what.
I still got some.
I do got a little bit. You still got some? Just a little bit.
Listen, you got that's liquid gold.
It's liquid gold. That honey is. When you have nature growing because it's warm all the time and it can grow to its fullest, it never has a cycle of death. Everything is more potent.
Well, no, it dies, but
yeah, but not in the same, not in the same cycle.
Our American honey.
Yeah, but understanding that the things that we do for our survival is the things that keep us strong. Mm-hmm. So going to get the well water, when I first got there, and I would go get the well water, I could barely carry one pail of water.
Was jump down, pick around, pick a pail of water.
And I would get the water, pumping the well. I would get the water halfway halfway to my destination, I'd have to put it down. Now I've already done splashed.
Damn.
A quarter of
Half
the water
of it's
out.
down on the floor.
Okay.
In circles.
Okay. And then I would get to my destination. By the time I left Shemzheru,
You was carrying 2 like the monks.
2.
One on your head.
Okay, 2 things of water, not spilling none of them, carrying them all the way to the destination, not even putting them down. I realized there was strength in just going to get the water. And then the other thing I realized is if you have to go, first of all, you know where water is. There was a time that here in my apartment, across town in Baltimore, the leasing office told us that they were turning off the water that day.
Bro.
And I was like, okay, they turned off the water. I cannot tell you how many times I went to turn on the water, forgetting that there was no water.
Not be there, yeah.
And then it dawned on me. I was sitting there and I was thinking, I was like, wait a minute, where's my nearest water source? And I was like, wait a minute, I don't even know. Like, I can't go get water because someone controls my access to water here.
Yep. Yeah, the biggest takeaway, like, I'm not trying to make this segment about me, but the biggest takeaway was the illusion.
Right.
And then to break the illusion. Like, that concept of breaking the illusion, bro. Like, I remember when I was there and I was like, man, I can't wait to go get Chipotle. Right? But everything is already in line. It's in bags. They just put it in the little thing. They might chop up the chicken, but it's nothing like getting the chicken. You see the damn chicken walking through the temple. You're like, hey. I name chicken. They're like, hey, Ryan, what you doing? But then Ryan will be sacrificed for an offering to a divinity, and then it goes through the whole process, right? So now you in the back as a bunch of y'all in different sectors might be dipping the chicken in the boiling water, taking off the feathers, and then putting chicken to the next section. Now you got the temple keeper breaking the chicken open and cleaning it, and then you got other people cleaning organs and stuff like that. But then, like, at the end of the day, throughout the whole process, right, you eating the chicken. Right there. So, and then, like, the food, like, you notice the food is different, right? So although, like, like I said, this is your experience, but although it was a lot, man, it was so clean, bro.
It was so clean. It was so good. And
yeah, tell us about that for you.
The food is literally the medicine. Like, that's a cliche here that we hear say.
Can you really explain that for us?
Okay, so
I mean, like, because it is a cliche. Like, what are you talking about?
I saw a poster the other day here that said your food is medicine. It was at the public library, and I thought it's crazy that you have to promote that here because shouldn't it be obvious? But now the food is about what makes you feel good and what it tastes. And it doesn't matter if there's anything good about it. It doesn't matter if there's anything healing about it. So that means it doesn't matter how it's being grown. It can be GMO'd, it can be pesticide down, it can be on land that's not being taken care of and the soil that's not good. It can have water that's polluted, and it's okay. The FDA will say it's okay to allow certain amounts of toxins in your food, and you eat that every day, but no one considers if you're having those toxins being introduced by your food every day, 3 times a day for all of your life. How is that affecting your life?
Exactly. So the last follow-up question that I would like to ask before we transition to another segment of our podcast, for the listeners who have never gone to Merita, and some of them who haven't even considered going, right? You have some people who's never even considered going.
Right.
What would be the biggest adjustment or the biggest takeaway for them that are preparing their mind to even think about going, or even for the ones that are to go? Like, what word of advice would you give for them?
Be honest with yourself. A lot of people go to Africa and they go to touristy Africa. They go to Africa that is like a smaller, worse version of America. And so you'll get a lot of the conveniences that you're used to.
Might get a 7-Eleven.
You might. And but if you're going because you want to learn about yourself, if you're going because you want to have healing in your body, if you're going to find out what our ancestors did, our ancestors, and I'm not saying my ancestors because I'm a Black woman, I'm saying the ancestors that maintained the culture for all of humanity. If you want to understand how indigenous people live harmoniously with nature and the benefits that you get from that, then you want to go to traditional Merrusheta. You want to go on pilgrimage with the Kebtah, because it's not going to be easy, because you have to let go for a moment of everything you thought you knew. Not just what you thought you knew about Africa, but what you think you know of yourself, and even what you think you know is good for you. To be able to be open to receive what is actually best for you. And it's not comfortable. It's not easy. It's an adjustment. But what I realized there is anything that's really good for you is an adjustment. Mm-hmm. Anything that's really good for you is not easy. Mm-mm. And you shouldn't want it to be easy. And if it is easy, I think when something's too easy, you should be wondering what is hidden behind it. So I think that would be my takeaway. Like, free your mind, give yourself a clean slate, allow yourself to not have the Western expectations of something moving fast. Like, we always want things to be quick, and that's just not how things work in Merrusheta.
No, you're not gonna go outside and see a hippopotamus, a gazelle, and a cheetah running around, man. Sit your ass down and enjoy nature for what it is. But that was my experience.
I think that you have to adjust. Like, Grandma would always ask me after lunch, she would say dormir, to sleep in French. And I'd be like, no, I'm fine. Because I don't go to sleep here at 12 or, after lunch. I thought, quote unquote, I wasn't tired. Sure enough, slam at 5, 6 o'clock, I would be knocked out. Mm-hmm. Because you have to.
Come on, wake up, come on.
Right, and I'd be knocked out because you have to adjust to where you are.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing.
The heat, the environment, the lifestyle, it demands that you do things differently. And when you can adjust to what nature imposes on you, mm-hmm. it makes it so that you can fit and keep up with how life comes with us. Like, we can't adjust here in America. Like, things stress us out, things change, and we lose our minds, and there's no balance. But there, you learn to adjust, you learn to have balance, you learn to be harmonious with nature, and you're there. Listen, okay, this is the last thing before we segue into our next segment. What I realized, and I told my family who was concerned about me going to Africa, I was safer there in the hands and the care of who took me than I am in my own home with my doors locked here in America. Safer there. I didn't hear sirens all day long. I didn't hear folks cussing and fussing at each other and horns blaring. There was order in everything that I saw. And it seemed like there was a way to address when things weren't in order. So, yeah, it was an amazing experience. We'll get more into it in a little bit. So, our next segment.
Yeah, that ends the segment, doesn't it?
That does end that segment. Mm-hmm. Our next segment is pick a card. The commandment of the day.
Yeah, I tried doing a little beatbox, but it didn't really work out.
What's our commandment of the day, Shemzheru?
The card that I pick for the commandment of the day is thou shalt not sin from excess of speech. Yeah. So this is one of those that is multi-layered. Right, just like all of the commandments of the code of human behavior that humanity was given by the divine world. This one is definitely not within the Christian commandment, the 10 commandments. And it's a really, really interesting one because it's like thou shall not sin from excess of speech. Like, what really does that mean? So we learn in M-Time or the traditional school that corruption goes downhill, right?
Right.
And here we see that this is a possibility even with speech. There's a traditional saying that refers to over talking, which is you catch a human by his tongue. And it's a little bit more to that, but that's the only thing. That's the biggest takeaway that I remember is you catch a human by his tongue. And we can even see that in this situation, like in the presidential debate. And I don't know if y'all be listening to that. I really don't, other than like if it's for a grade for school, right? But you can see both parties lying, right? The more you talk, the deeper the lies got, because it became like a battle of, oh, I'm gonna say whatever I can top. I can one off you.
Right.
Like in school, like the childish banter, right? You be back there with your friends, and there might be somebody pull up, and now they talking trash, and you want to say something that's like bigger than the thing that they say.
Right.
You always want to go bigger. You always want to go bigger. You always want to go bigger. Even people that like telling stories, or just talking to somebody, you kind of want to eventually impress them with your speech. So therefore, you might say something that might be a little bit of a lie, or a little bit of something, and it sounds good, you know? Like it's that thing that we have, that little white lie, they say, okay, well, if it's a little white lie, it shouldn't be that bad, right? And it still brings about that corruption, like even because the doorway to that white lie is through speech, right? Before you even breach the threshold of you getting to that position, you're going through speech. So now you're talking too much. So it's like, even like the traditions are so powerful, like learning the Kemetic education is so powerful because even our ancestors reserved the concept of speech and knew that, if you go too much into excess, then you can get to a point where corruption goes downhill. And now you up here lying, telling stories, man, you ain't no king. Who are you? We know who you are. Like, like it's like that fact check.
The fact check.
Yeah. And that, it gives you that space to be able to have that position. What are your thoughts on it?
First and foremost is I think about, like, this is a commandment that I try to remember a lot because I know I'm chatty. But what I've learned is that therein lies the corruption and the con. The more someone talks, the more you can wonder, like, what are they trying to hide inside what they're saying? Things that are the truth, like my grandmother, she was just clear. She didn't say a whole lot of words. A couple of, a sentence, and that was it. But it was so powerful because it was just clear, concise, the truth, and to the point. It wasn't, okay, for instance, we hear all the time, I'm going to live my truth. But is it just the truth? Because the truth doesn't change from person to person. Now, yes, I can understand that an individual's perspective and how they experience life makes that unique. But if they're telling the truth, then it doesn't have to just be my truth. It's just the truth. So I find this concept to be something that the fact that there's no commandment that I've ever learned as a Christian that said, thou shalt not sin from excess of speech, and how different the world would be if we were more aware of the words we chose to say and how we said them, and understanding that silence is important. I mean, there's a reason why there's a saying that silence is golden. There's so much that can be accomplished with just sometimes sitting down and being quiet, not talking too much. As we say, not doing too much. I think this is a powerful commandment, just like any other one that we have. But in our everyday life now, where it seems, with social media, it's all about talking too much, and how you compress the next person with what you said.
How you get paid.
That's how you get paid, and that's scary.
It's capitalism for you. Capitalism doesn't have a boundary of, oh, you shouldn't do this. Nah. Yeah, you can do that. You can get paid. How much am I get paid? Oh, you can get $50,000 a month? Oh,
spin that web, tell that lie.
It's all about the entertainment. That's the commandment.
That's the commandment of
You
the
know,
week.
like we said, but this is multi-layered. So
Yeah, just something to think about
just
for your
something to
week.
think about.
Yeah. So that is the commandment of the week. Commandment number 23, thou shalt not sin, from excess of speech, coming from the great book of divine ordinances, the code of human behavior. So next up is a segment that was one of my favorites. The Griot's Corner. The Griot's Corner is our segment where we will have artists who will be performing the different modalities of art, whether it's music or poetry or playing an instrument, singing, etc. But in our last 2 episodes, along with this one, you're going to be hearing from my brother, the poet Shemzheru Tenkawur.
Shout out to him, right?
Gang, gang.
Gang, gang. All right, so on today's episode, the poem that I'm gonna give you all is called "Say No to Drugs." It's unfinished, but I'm gonna do my best reading this one, and y'all will hear why. In a few, I'm gonna do my best for reading this one, and just know there's more to come. Say no to drugs. Sassy sisters spoke in solitude, selling stories of the rain dancers, describing the deluge of a great devastation designed to destroy societies, partly placing this parable into the hands of the forgotten, folding the furrows formed in the forms of their stories. These sisters mingle in the night, mayors, making matter materialize as matrons. Motions molded the melody of their thoughts, turning the towns like toys for tots. These sisters describe those scenes as sonnets, sounds singled in sections, making this mystery sacred, decreeing their designs with the signs the heaven scent of liquor, dribbled from the residue of sweat gleaming off of the skin of the rain dancers. Their cannons created caricatures of crusaders, crippled from the desires to dance when the melodic beat was sounded. Their feet formed in formations, mixing the mud with the blood born from the thought of the Waj, torn in the Hajj of the stranger, as he strode in the stories told of the sisters. Dance, rain, dance, rain, dance, rain. They spoke. Voices of thunder rose in the vicinity. A volition of violet voices sprung out of the nape of those sisters, knowing naturally through time's naked notions, naming regions that joined the regime. Their stories were folded into dreams, daring devastation to deploy causalities of war, bringing the bondage of their bodies to forgotten to the front lines. Their sentences bent, suspended in a suspense that protruded, pulling intrusive tribes, trickling the blood of their enemies in smiles formed from the crust of their lips. The might made was magic, materializing into matter, a story told of the rain dancers who dance under the curtain of the rain, who dance under the whip that split scalps, residue of brain, who dance in the tears of their mamas who told stories to them about the sisters, twins able to immortalize the body of brothers, sisters killed of the crime of having black skin. It was their voices illustrating what they saw. Dance, rain, dance, rain, dance.
Yeah. Thank you, Shemzheru.
Yeah, no problem.
That was a fire poem.
I can't wait till I'm done that.
That is so nice.
Thank you.
That was our Griot's Corner from my brother Shemzheru Tenkawur. And now I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor. Our sponsor this week is Ancasta Natural Healing. Ancasta Natural Healing is the healing branch of the Earth Center of the Kebtah. Excuse me, we've had a rebranding. We are the Kebtah. And Ancasta Natural Healing allows us to address the health and wealth mentally, spiritually, and physically of the individual through a traditional healing modality. So understanding that each and every one of us has components that are seen as well as unseen. It's the only healing modality that I know that really addresses the whole person. There are traditional herbs that come from the healers and the priests in West Africa, as well as if you need any therapy, life coaching, consultations are available virtually as well as in person. You can go on the website to learn more and to see the abundance of healing herbs that we have, along with the sales that are happening right now at www.an, like Nancy, life.org. That's www.anhlife.org. And that is, again, Ancasta Natural Healing. Take some time, check out our website, and learn more so that you can begin having better health in your life. So we're going to just have about a 4-minute finish up of our topic segment on pilgrimage. And this is my final thought in regards to pilgrimage. It was amazing to see people understand how to take care of the land. One of the things that I remember going there, seeing when we were driving, is there was a lot of plastic bags. I thought it was a sea of ravens because there were all these plastic bags on the land. And I remember, I believe Naba telling us that you have to understand that everything that the people used was natural. So if they used something and then threw it outside, they knew it returned to the earth. It wasn't until the introduction through colonialism and through Western modernization coming into the land of bringing the things that were unnatural without giving them the context of understanding that this won't go back to the earth. And so now that corruption has changed that for them and how they think in all ways, which is a big reason for the Indigenous Renaissance Initiative. You have to protect the indigenous people who are still maintaining and living their traditional culture, because they know how to live harmoniously with nature. They already have healing modalities because they've had to face life and they've had to know what to do when illnesses and life happen. But they also knew that facing life wasn't about waiting until something happened. It was about preventing. So the spiritual side of things, understanding the unseen realm and the energetic realm, the traditional people just know what to do to protect their communities, to make sure that people are well. So things that we hear horrible accidents, it just aren't heard of there, as well as, the illnesses that we have. I was talking to a sister today from, I believe she said Cameroon. Her grandmother's still there, but she told me that she didn't know about cancer until she came to America, because it's something that's unheard of there. So in her village, and her grandmother still lives in the village. So the biggest takeaway that I have in my trip to Merrusheta is the Western world needs what traditional culture has. The Western culture needs what traditional Africa has. It's not the other way around. Anytime that the West comes in with colonialism or imperialism or sends doctors there, it's not because Africa needs that.
The missionaries too.
Don't need anybody else's guide. It's rude to just come into somebody else's house and tell them what to do. We need what Africa has. And the Indigenous Renaissance Initiative helps to preserve that so that it will be available not only for those who have always maintained and kept it, but so it would be available for when the world understands that it needs it. it'll be there for it to be able to receive it. So we're wrapping up now. We're at our final portion, which is the Bayawali divination. And today's Bayawali earth energy reading, it's from, so to give you some background, it's from the temples of the Nile and Niger Valley. The science of the reading of the earth energies is over 70,000 years old, and it's originating from the temples of Thebes, Memphis, Abydos, and known by modern science as geomancy. So parts of this science can be found all over the world, but the original form of the reading is known as Mtam, and it's still practiced by the Gormanchi people of West Africa. So in today's Mtam reading, we are actually, if you have the sidereal calendar, in the month of Tehuti, and the Neter, or god that resides over the month of Tehuti, is Aishat. And Aishat is a goddess of love. She is the wife of Whistler and the god of the dead, and the mother of Heru, or who would be considered Horus in the Greek mythology. Aishat is seen as the greatest example of a loving and faithful wife and mother. Her love for her husband was so strong that she used her magical power to resurrect Whistler after he died. Aisha is worshipped around the world under diverse names, and is the goddess on which modern religions have based their feminine models. She is also known as Isis, Aset, Asada. As humans, Aishat is considered our mother and first maternal ancestor. She is our role model for motherhood, love, and family devotion. So the Bayawali general reading for those who are born in the month of Tehuti, which would be from September 11th to October 10th, the constellation, and actually on this particular month or year, it's from September 10th to October 9th. The constellation of energies in this period reveals at the origin of connection on the divinity Aishat, an expression of cosmic energy channel and a lack of expression of the earth energy channel. The energies from both channels are not connected with the earth energy core. The cosmic energies are projecting mockery, challenges, megalomania, and the earth energies from the earth are projecting the violent character of nature and things that pay off. Your practical life will be completely affected by the lack of connection and the nature of the energies from your energy channels. The expression of your personality will be marked by preoccupations and energetic insufficiencies. You will show instability in the way you manage your life, risk of jealousy and tension among people. The energetic momentum of this period will continue. Keep the spirit of humility and tolerance in your environment. Avoid being dragged into situations of power or personality conflict. Control your speech and impulse. Be patient and intelligent. So again, that is the Bayawali reading for this period. So that ends our segment for today, Shemzheru.
Yes, it does.
And stay tuned, y'all. Thank you so much for joining Shemzheru and I on our third episode of the Starlight podcast.
Yo, we moving.
We are moving. Thank you. Hey, just to give a little bit of count, the last time I checked, we had 44 listeners to our first episode. Thank you, everyone, for checking us out. We had about, the last time I checked, which was a week ago, but I know it's probably, about 4 days ago, was 10 listeners for our new podcast. We thank for the second episode, and we thank you for listening. We thank you for joining us week to week. We thank you for the feedback that you've been giving us on the podcast, and we look forward to taking the critiques that you gave us and continuing to improve on our podcast.
Thank you for listening.
So stay tuned next week, where we'll actually dig into some more of the initiatives of the Kebtah. I'm going into more detail about Het Aishat, going into the water initiatives and agriculture. There's some more, y'all. We're going to be going into them. So stay tuned. And that's it for this week. See you next week. Or see you in the next 2 weeks, y'all. Later.
All right, peace.
Thank you for listening to the Starlight Podcast. To learn more about Bayouali Earth Energy readings, go to www.risingfirefly.org. To book a spiritual reading or a health consultation, go to www.anhlife.org. And if you're interested in learning more about Kemetic culture, visit our website at www.theearthcenter.org. Don't forget to like, share, and follow us on all social media platforms at Kebtah and on Facebook, The Earth Center. May you shine as bright as the starlight in the night. Iriru. Peace.
Peace.